Hello and welcome back to the game room. You know what I love? Video games. You know what I love? Talking about games. And it seems like a lot of people these days who cover games seem to hate them. Or at least the people who play them. Well, that's not me, and that's not the 5,136 of you beautiful people checking out this video here today. Yes! We missed a week last week. For those of you who noticed, I and my entire family came down with a horrible flu over the weekend last week, and I just could not film, I could not think. I'm not even really better until right now, so sorry about that. Don't typically miss a video. That's the first time I've missed a weekly video in 3 years, so hopefully we'll start a new streak, but yes, that is where I was. Now, as I like to do, let's answer some comments from last time we had a video. One of which was, why do I always lift my head up? I don't know, that just kind of became my thing, and now I do it every time to start the video. It was sort of a call out to Conan O'Brien's, like, doing this, and then it just became the way I start the video. Another one mentioned how these videos really are just speculation, or not meant to be talking about the games, or did you even watch the video? I can care less about what the price of these things go for. Yes, the titles of the videos are labeled that way because the algorithm likes it and it gets you beautiful people here. But if all of these games were worth nothing, I wouldn't mind, because then I could go buy more. And speaking of games, today we are taking a look at 10 more Switch games. So if that sounds interesting to you, let's check it out.
There's a lot of games out there, some of which you've never even heard of. That's where I come in. My name's Luke. I've been playing games since the age of 2, and I have no life.
This is my game room.
Alright, the first game we're going to talk about today is one that came out fairly recently. There was a big sale on it for Prime Day, so I finally snagged it just because I have both of these games, and the Switch has become a huge repository for a lot of PS1 era RPG remasters. So I knew I wanted to pick this up, just didn't want to get it full price and waited for it to be a discount. And so I got Suikoden 1 and 2. So this is a remaster, more or less, of the first 2 games that came out on the PS1. Suikoden 1's always been fairly affordable, but Suikoden 2 at one point was well over $400 complete. Luckily, since this came out, those prices have come down. I think Suikoden 2 is back around what it was worth 2015 times, where it's a little over $100, something like that, which is great because it's a phenomenal game. I have not played Suikoden 1. I played through Suikoden 2 3 or 4 years ago, managed to beat the damn thing. It is an excellent game. There is a big shock towards the end of it that you can actually change depending on how you played it. There's up to 100 recruitable team members, though not all of them are actual team members. Some of them just take place in your home base, so like people who can raise animals, things like that. All in all, really fun. It is a series that they're all like that. They had a spiritual successor that was kickstarted called U Chronicles, which I did pick that up. I think I got that on the PS5. And why did I get this on the Switch? I don't know. It's hard for me not to want these really expensive RPGs on the Switch just because it is so much more convenient to play them. Though I really do enjoy playing my old PS1 through my RetroTink 5X on the PS2. So what am I doing? I'm just a collector who has a problem. I have yet to play this on the Switch. Let me know what you guys think about it. It's on the PS5 as well. I think it's even on Xbox. But yeah, one to pick up. That is a great duology of games. Even though I've only played the second one, the first one I hear good things about too. It's a turn-based, it's not tactical, but turn-based RPG, but you control 6 people. And it also is a little difficult where I believe when you have someone die in a fight, there's no real way to revive them. There's also in the second game, Luca Blight is a really, really cool villain and doesn't get enough play in my opinion as far as the classic PS1 RPG villains. The first one, don't know much about it, but I hear it's just as good. Not as good as the second one, but still a really solid game. Alright, moving on to the next game. So this is one that I just want to bring up Everything on the Wii U got remastered for the Switch, though this is probably one of the lesser ones as far as people don't really talk about it, and that is New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe. So this wasn't a launch title, but this was fairly early, I want to say. And the thing that made this one so cool is it combined the New Super Mario Bros. U with the New Super Mario Bros. Luigi U. Though the Luigi version of New Super Mario Bros. Was just a cash grab, really. It was sort of different, not really. And then they have simultaneous 4-player co-op, and then the purple dude is basically like an invulnerability mode where I don't think he could get damaged other than falling off cliffs. This is where the game kind of, the rails came off the New Super Mario Bros. Series, but it's still fun enough, and especially once my daughter's old enough, that's another good one to play with multiplayer, though that, in my opinion, is kind of the problem with a lot of the New Super Mario Bros. Saga, is it was really designed around having that 4-player chaos going on, but there's just not much in the way of fun game design. Luckily, Super Mario Wonder fixed that. Still a solid one to have. If you want to have no reason to ever have a Wii U, that's one you got to pick up. And it's just a Nintendo game. Nintendo games never go down in price, so you should pick it up. All right. Next one we're going to talk about is the sequel, I guess, to Fire Emblem Warriors. They had 2 Hyrule Warriors, and then they of course came out with another one for Fire Emblem Warriors called Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes. And whereas the first game was an alternate universe storyline that kind of took place with Awakening and Fates, this one largely takes place using the characters from Fire Emblem 3 Houses, and I've yet to play this one. I'm just not a fan of the Warriors games as much as you think it'd be fun going on these battlefields and beating up all of these 100 enemies at once. It loses its luster fairly quickly for me. It's just a mindless button masher and just not that enjoyable in my opinion. But I'm a sucker for Fire Emblem games. I gotta pick them up no matter how bad or what they're like. I even just finally picked up the Game Boy Fire Emblem the other day, which is hard to believe I didn't have that one. Like the original GBA one, the first one to come out in the West. But yes, Fire Emblem 3 Hopes, just another Fire Emblem Warrior, another Dynasty Warriors clone, but it's Fire Emblem, and for people who love 3 Houses, it's gotta be fun because you can play with a lot of the 3 Houses characters. Alright, this is a game that I really wanted to like. Every time I looked into it, it seemed like it'd be more fun than it actually was playing it. And that game is the Escapists. So there's a Escapist 1, Escapist 2. More or less this game, you play in a pixel world where you are thrown in jail. And the whole purpose of the game is to develop a routine and then eventually break out of the jail. And it's sort of a sandbox where you can break out in a litany of different ways. And it's one of those things where it sounds really fun on paper, but in practice, I don't know. I lost interest in it very quickly. I don't know if it was the art style. I don't know if it's just the routine nature of it, but I popped it in one time several years back and played it for a couple hours, and I just was not feeling it. Didn't enjoy the slow pace of the game, feeling like I had to go and do laundry and then do this and that and having to be a stealth. I don't know. It really was one of those things where you ever see one of those concepts where you think you're going to enjoy something, but then you actually play it and you're like, wow, this really wasn't all that enjoyable. And that's kind of how the Escapists played out. I have the second one for the Xbox One, I want to say, because I think this was a limited run games release of the original Escapists. And I don't know. Let me know. Am I playing the game wrong? Is it better than I've given it credit for? All right, the next one we got here was a game that was originally released on, I want to say, the PS4 and the Vita for a long time and nowhere else. And it got very, very expensive. And this was before limited run, super rare, strictly limited. Like, this was a limited release of a game, I want to say from 2014-ish. And it got super rare. And I almost pulled the trigger on one of the PS4 versions. I'm glad I didn't. And then they eventually made a Switch version of it. And the game is called Retro City Rampage DX. And this is more or less a parody game using the style of the old GTA PS1 games where it's a top-down view. And then it's very much a indie game where it's trying to be super clever with references. So you'll have references to things like Back to the Future or, 80s movies or, just things like that. But it's so incredibly on the nose that at the time I'm sure it was fun, but it's kind of like Marvel movies where, the Guardians of the Galaxy, the humor in there fits the first time, that Whedon-esque humor, but then after a while, a new Superman comes out and it's still got that humor, and it's like, all right, that's a little long on tooth. The same way I felt about Saturday Morning RPG, where the reference is the point, not actually built into the world in a clever way. And Retro City Rampage DX is like that, taken up to 11. And I just, once again, not a game I'm a huge fan of, but it is one that is, it was gracefully a lot cheaper than what was on the PS4 and the Vita at the time. And there is also a kind of a sequel for this. I think it's the Shakedown Hawaii game, which was the last one they made for the Wii U or something like that. But yeah, Retro City Rampage DX. Another one to pick up if you're interested in it. It's dripping in 80s nostalgia and references and movie references, but gameplay-wise just didn't really hook me as much as I thought it'd be fun to be going through a pixel-style GTA-type game in 2025. Not really. Didn't enjoy it all that much. Alright, moving on to the next one. So this was a game that originally came out on the Genesis by the name of Warsong. Then there was a sequel for it that never came out in the West. And when the Switch first came out, this was one of the, I want to say within the first couple of years, they localized this for the West. And I missed it. But because the Switch is region free, I always knew I could grab a copy of this at some point. And that is Langrisser 1 and 2. Now these are turn-based tactical games. Though when you get into battles, they have a little bit more in line with, say, Unicorn Overlord or something like that, Bahamut Lagoon, where you're not just controlling one character, you have sort of an army versus an army. And I never played this on the Genesis. I feel like I saw my friend playing it or something, because the map screen always looks familiar. And I had no idea there was a sequel to it. And this was very expensive, even as a PAL release. And even now, I think the North American release is still pretty pricey. But you gotta pick this up. If you like old school RPGs like I do, specifically old school tactical games, this is one that you'll hear people talk about all the time. Why it was renamed from from Langrisser to Warsong here in the West, who knows? They always did that stuff. Langrisser, no idea what that means. And I think there's even more games of it too. But it's a fun series. It's one that came out and not many people talk about. But if you're looking for a fun tactical game on the Switch, that is definitely one to grab, and is one that has gone up in price in the past and probably will continue to do so. Alright, so a launch title on the Switch. This was a game I was very excited about, and I'm always wanting to recapture that magic I found when I played the N64 version of this particular series, and I just never have. And that game is Super Bombmerman R. So this was a big get. It was from Konami. It was a Switch exclusive that was launching with the Switch, or at least within the first couple of weeks of the Switch. And what made it sound cool is just, it's a Bomberman game. But lo and behold, to me, I always imagine Bomberman playing like Bomberman 64, when most of them do not. And with this game, no exception. Largely, you're going through Bomberman levels, and you could have some different heights and different variables to it and that, but it's just a simple Bomberman game. And I played it, enjoyed it enough, but really, I maybe got a couple hours worth of use out of it, not much whatsoever. And it stayed pricey for a long time. Like, there was not any discounts or anything like that. There is a sequel I've never played. They eventually released this on other systems too. But just another one. Keep an eye out if you're looking to get more games on your Switch. Now, this is one that I wanted to pick up when it was coming out. At the time, I just couldn't. I had no money. And luckily, there was I think it was on Woot or something recently, and I finally picked it up a copy, and that is Windjammers 2. Now, I love the first Windjammers. This really is just more Windjammers awesomeness, but there's nothing wrong with that. I believe they added a couple of new characters in this and slightly different stages, but other than that, I can't tell you there's much difference between this and the first Windjammers. And the first Windjammers is just such a classic arcade game, and I absolutely had a blast playing it. I was unfamiliar with it back in the day too. I think my old friend Ryan introduced me to it, and it's just a lot of fun. It's a game that Jen enjoys playing too. Really, really like it, and one of those games where I wanted to have a physical copy of it and wanted to try it on the Switch. All right, last couple of games here. So here's one that I have yet to play, story of my life. But this is definitely one you want to grab just because this entire series just gets really pricey, and people absolutely adore this game. That is Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Now, as far as I know, the DLC for this is not on a physical release, but this game, people absolutely adored. I've seen footage of it, and once again, it still looks a little to me, but I'm a sucker. I gotta support Nintendo. I gotta support these RPG franchises, even though the gameplay style may not be for me. It's something I'll get to one of these days. I mean, when I look at Xenoblade 1, 2, 3, and then Xenoblade Chronicles X, which I'm sure we'll talk about, like just the sheer amount of time those will take, that feels like something I could spend an entire year doing. But 3 is one that I've heard good things about. It looks a little bit more mature than 2, though I've recently seen some footage of the game where there's like bunny people and all this, and I'm like, oh god, what am I going to get myself into if I ever play that? Alright, and then the last game. This is kind of a cheat, but what are we going to do? It's my channel. We're going to talk about Donkey Kong Bananza. Yes, this game, everyone's talking about it. It's everywhere. Is it going to be a pricey game? Probably not. If you want to get it, go to Costco. If you have a Costco membership, you can get like $8 off. But man, is it a fun 3D platformer. I don't know about Game of the Year type stuff, but it is a very unique concept where basically it embodies Hollow Earth, because you're going deeper and deeper into the ground, and in these stages there's sky above you. So, imagine that. But it is a really fun concept where the entire ground is destructible, though you do come to metal floors or metal this or that, and you can't break the metal. It's a nice way of introducing Pauline, and Donkey Kong's new look looks cool. It feels like a lot of fun. Nintendo really crushed it, I think, with the non-Mario platformers, because the last Kirby game was a lot of fun. That was a 3D platformer, and then this one was a lot of fun. So yeah, the bar has been set pretty damn high for Mario. Is it the greatest game I've ever played? No. Is it a lot of fun? Is it something you can play with your family? Absolutely. And I highly recommend it. Would you pick up a Switch 2 just for this game? Maybe. I mean, maybe if you didn't do it for Mario Kart World, this game is more my speed. Honestly, the thing that convinced me to get a Switch 2 day one was this game, because immediately seeing what it was like, it's like, okay, you have the range ability of, say, Super Mario, or not, of Breath of the Wild, but then you can just destroy everything and almost feel like Minecraft. And there is just the fun of going into the Ultra Donkey Kong mode and just punching through stuff and just destroying it and finding things. It is definitely a little collectathon heavy. There is the point of like, what's the point of getting the bananas other than unlocking skill points? But I'm also only on stage 5, so we'll see how much deeper it gets. Really loving it, really enjoying the game. And there you have it. There's another 10 games you need to go out immediately and pick up. I'm going to wrap up this outro quickly here because I've been coughing nonstop throughout this entire filming. Thank you guys once again for being here every week. Hopefully we don't lose a lot of momentum because of the missed week, but if so, what are you going to do? As a reminder, I make a new video every Tuesday. It's been so good getting a hold of you. Take care.